Pokemon breeding. You leave two of them at a daycare? Or a nursery? Anyway, if you get lucky, your Pokemon will have an egg. Not lay an egg, at least no one ever seems to see that happening. God, Pokemon breeding is weird. But what I want to talk about today is, I think, the weirdest aspect of them all. The fact that Pokemon of different species can breed. I don't think species is quite the right term there, but I'll get to that. Every Pokemon that can breed with Pokemon of different species, but the reason why hasn't been addressed canonically. You could chalk it up to game mechanics and say that Pokemon can't really interbreed, and the only reason they can in the games is to make it easier for you to try for the moves, the stats, the abilities that you're looking for. But honestly, that's a boring answer because ultimately it can't have an effect on Pokemon world building. So I'm going to accept that Pokemon can interbreed and see where that takes us. And here's the thing, it's not just that Pokemon can interbreed, it's that almost every Pokemon can interbreed. Check out this map of all the egg groups. In the labeled circles you have the Pokemon that belong to a single egg group, and on the connecting lines you have the Pokemon that belong to more than one. To keep things a little simpler, I only included to the final evolution of each Pokemon, except for Nidoran female, which is over here, while Nidoqueen is over there. And of course, in the middle you have Ditto, able to breed with just about everyone. So not every egg group is connected to every other egg group, but ultimately they are all connected, except for the undiscovered group, which is almost entirely legendary Pokemon and can't breed at all. Well, actually, think about that. The egg group is called undiscovered in English, and in Japanese it translates to eggs never discovered. To me, that means not that the Pokemon can't breed, but that no one has seen them breed. Maybe the Pokemon are too rare, or maybe they breed too infrequently, so people just haven't seen them breed. But at least in theory, these Pokemon could actually belong to other egg groups, we just don't know it. And there has been a baby Lugia in the anime, so let's change perspectives for a bit and talk about the move Transform. According to the in-game description in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, Transform alters the user's cells to become a copy of the foe. Only two Pokemon can learn it naturally, Ditto and Mew. We are told canonically that Mew's genome includes the DNA of every other Pokemon, and that is why it can alter its cellular structure to match something else. In Ditto's case, this explanation isn't canonical, but it still applies. There's a very strong fan theory that Ditto is an attempted clone of Mew that only has the ability to transform. That would mean that it also has the DNA of every other Pokemon. But the fact is, those two Pokemon aren't that special. Actually, a lot of other Pokemon can transform. Smeargle can sketch transform, Copycat can also trigger transform, and there's a pretty good list of Pokemon that can learn that. And the really big one is Mimic, which can also be used to learn transform. Besides the Pokemon that can normally learn Mimic, almost every Gen 1 Pokemon could learn Mimic by TM. And there is a very long list of Pokemon that can learn it by Move Tutor in Gen 3. Which means that all of those Pokemon can transform. Maybe they don't learn it naturally, but they do have that ability. They have the genetic material to transform into other Pokemon. So if we take that and consider it alongside that vast interbreeding network, there's only one conclusion that I can draw. Pokemon are genetically almost identical, which is why it might not be right to call them different species. There's many ways to define a species, but most of them break down when everything can interbreed. Pokemon all have mostly the same genotype, which is the actual genetic material they have, but vastly different phenotypes, which is the characteristics those genes produce. In a way, it's kind of like all Pokemon are different forms of the same creature. But how would that happen? Well, now we're really going into speculation territory here, but I think that Pokemon are inherently exceptionally adaptable. Look at all the variety of Pokemon. There's not just Pokemon that look like animals, there's plants, rocks, gears. Think of how relatively easy it is to make an artificial Pokemon. Pokemon have occupied and dominated hundreds of ecological niches and outcompeted almost every animal we know and love from our world. But hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll go more into that in the next PokéStudies. For now, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know what you think in the comments. If Pokemon are almost identical genetically, where does that take you? Or maybe you even disagree with me. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I also want to thank Birdkeeper Toby. One of the reasons I started this channel was seeing other YouTubers that I really like put out theories that I disagree with. And this video was born from watching Toby's Evolution series. If you haven't seen it, you should. I'm loving it. So thank you, Toby, for the spark that got me here and for chatting with me about it last week. Anyway, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and in case that breeding map gives you any ideas, there's a download link in the description. I'm Umbreon Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter. There's not just Pokemon that look like animals. I couldn't help it. I tried to hold it.